because I've made it habitual, because it's just part of my system now that every couple of weeks I'm cleansing. I'm not feeling overwhelmed by what we have to manage in our daily lives.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really key. It's just start, let's have some fun,
Mm.
bring it to the customer. And in the end, we're all going to win. So whether you divert 1 kilo from landfill or, 500,000 kilos, it's
Yeah.
just, we all have to win. The consumers win because they feel empowered. The brands win because they're actually making a small margin and they don't have any overheads. So let's just push some boundaries and have some fun.
Hello and welcome. I'm Elizabeth Formosa, the founder of Fashion Equipped and devourer of all things fashion, business, and mindset. In this podcast, I'm speaking with thought leaders, change makers, and entrepreneurs about the business side of fashion and everything in between. Fashion Business Mindset is your front row seat to real stories from designers, brands, entrepreneurs, makers, and mentors. We'll discuss how to launch and grow a fashion business and give you insider access to the future of fashion. So let's do this together and ensure that you're equipped to make the fashion business your business. Welcome back to Fashion Business Mindset. My guest today is Belinda Paul, the founder of RCYCL, a game-changing platform that's helping fashion brands turn their sustainability ambitions into real-world impact. With over 25 years of experience across product development, buying, manufacturing, and brand management, Belinda knows the fashion industry inside out, and she's using that experience to tackle one of the biggest challenges, textile waste. RCYCL was born from Belinda's desire to chunk things down, to make sustainability feel less overwhelming and more actionable. The result? A plug-and-play system that allows brands to quickly integrate circular solutions into their conscious fashion impact offer. The RCYCL platform includes RCYCL, a solution for end-of-life garments; Rewear, a partnership with the Salvation Army to give clothes a second life through donation; and Repair, a growing collaboration with local repairers so customers can have their garments professionally mended. Belinda has already built meaningful brand partnerships with leading Australian retailers like The Iconic, and she's passionate about supporting more brands on their journey towards circularity. If you're a brand founder or leader ready to take action, she'd love to hear from you. In today's conversation, we explore the evolving retail landscape, what it means to be a conscious brand in 2025 and beyond, and how we can all contribute to a more circular fashion future, making an immediate impact, one action at a time. We've shared all of the links so you can connect with Belinda in our show notes. But if you're doing a quick search, the website is recycle.com.au, spelt RCYCL.com.au. So let's dive in. Belinda, welcome to Fashion Business Mindset.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for having me.
I'm very excited to dive into all things RCYCL today, but before we do, we want to share a little bit about you with our audience. So can we wind the clock back a little bit? And I'd love for you to share your journey in fashion retail with our audience before you launched your own business.
It's been a long journey. It's been a journey of many hats, but I say wholeheartedly that I wouldn't have been able to bring to market a system like RCYCL if I didn't have all of those hats on and all of that experience. So I've come from product, I've come from buying, I've come from deep in the sort of heart and thick of manufacturing with the factories. come from from brand management. And so that's where you wear all the hats, from visual merchandising to marketing to product to operations. And so all of those have come into play with Recycle. It has been an amazing journey through the retail and fashion landscape, but as we all know, that retail landscape has changed. And so as part of being in the thick of it back then, it's also about being a trend forecaster and seeing what's next and seeing what the consumers want and seeing what brands want. And so that is what has enabled me to end up with Recycle as a system.
Amazing. I'm sure all of those years of experience serve you very well when you are talking to the brands and you're talking to the retailers, and you can relate to where they're at, and what their business model is and what their needs are, and also, their target market. So now, after being in the industry for so long, if you wanted to start your own business, you could have done anything. But here we are. You're breaking new ground here with Recycle. So what was the moment in time that inspired you to start something in the textile, waste reduction space? And yeah, what was the catalyst behind it all?
Yeah, I think I actually took my retail hat off when I had kids, and I was more than comfortable with doing that. I thought, that's it, that's over. But in hindsight, I've looked back and I couldn't lay dormant. I had, I was consulting, I was starting startups all the time and doing some things that were really, really different. What was that moment though? It was that we were on a family holiday, we were on the south coast of New South Wales, and we were caught in the bushfires. And for me, that was really that moment where I was just like, why? Why are we even here? Why is my family here? Why are we in a situation like this that's out of our control? And what has caused it? And so from there, I went down a rabbit hole and just did as much research as I could. I actually reskilled and restudied and did a sustainability course out of Cambridge, and just learned that Australia is so far behind in our sustainability initiatives, in our recycling initiatives. And then that kind of led me to the fact that, maybe I can launch a product. That's my skill set. Maybe I can put something to market. It's not perfect, but sustainability in general and where we sit in the landscape as we are today in Australia is not perfect. But it was all about just starting something. And so then I did a lot of door knocking. I asked a lot of questions and thought I'd start with recycling clothing, or having that as a concept to start with. When we think about, accessories or footwear and how we construct those as items, to deconstruct those is so, so hard. And so really, I just chunked it all the way down and thought, well, why wouldn't I start with a t-shirt? And how do you recycle a t-shirt? And what does that look like? And that kind of just led to clothing in general, and just thought, well, we all wear clothes. We all have clothes at home. We all manage our wardrobes, not responsibly, but we manage them. So how do I kind of infiltrate that space and enable all of us to have an action that we can do to feel empowered that we're doing something to help the environment?
Absolutely amazing, very inspiring. So you've got a purpose-led business and you've got a solution to a huge problem, the way that I see it. So Belinda, for anyone who is not familiar with Recycle and they're hearing about it for the first time today, can you share a little bit about how your product and your platform works and how it really is solving problems for brands and consumers alike?
Yeah, thank you. So I suppose if I put my retail hat on, and if I'm a buyer or if I'm a product person and somebody was coming to me with this kind of solution, I've already navigated the questions that I think will be asked of me. So I kind of look to speak to retailers with the elimination of all the pain points. So what we're doing, so Recycle is a product. It can be sold at add to cart or point of sale. It's simply a plug and play. So you all of these items come with a barcode. It's a stock item. It's been sold to you as a wholesale price. You on sell it to your customers at a retail price. It's only a small margin, but it's a margin nonetheless. And it's a plug and play. So as we're cleaning out our wardrobes, or as we're thinking about what we're buying in new and what we need and what we're adding to cart already, subconsciously we're thinking about what we need to cleanse. Why are we buying that new? Is it 3 new shirts for work? What do we need to do with our old shirts? Do we need to recycle our old shirts? Are they too stained? Are they too worn? So what I'm trying to do is give the consumer an option to be responsible with their garments. So for all of the end of life garments that would ultimately be thrown in the bin, they go into your recycle bag. For all the garments that are still in perfectly good condition that you've already bought an update to that garment, whether it be a new color palette or a new silhouette or a new season's launch, those garments are really, really good. So I partnered with the Salvos for a rewear program. So it's simply adding this bag to cart. It comes out to you with your order. You open it up, you fill it with all of the garments that you would love to be donated and handed on and loved again. And that goes directly to the Salvos DC, and then they distribute it as they see fit through their retail channels. And then we are just about to launch repair. So when we have that pile of clothes on our floor that needs a new zip, or the hem has come down, or the button needs replaced, and it just stays on the floor for 6 months, 12 months, and then in the end, we actually go out and buy new clothes because that's the easier option. So what I'm trying to do is integrate a circular system into our point of sale, our add to cart, our transactional mentality, so that we can start thinking about just being responsible with our wardrobes. It goes through the retailer, the brand partner is championed. They're the ones who are ultimately offering it to their customer base. And really, it's about just chunking things down, again, to use that term, chunking things down to a point where all of us as consumers can just act, can just do something. And we all buy, all consume.
We sure do. We all consume too much, as we know. It's the biggest problem we're facing. Now, for those who can't see you at the moment and they're tuning in on audio, I'm just going to share. Belinda's holding up satchel bags. So this product, she's mentioned a bag. It's a satchel bag that literally you just fill with your products that you either want to recycle, you want to gift, so going to the Salvos you've just mentioned, so donating, and repair, which is new, which we're going to dive into. So it's a done for you system, because when you're holding up those products or those bags, Belinda, we've got the names on them. So it's a pretty foolproof system, right? So the recycle bag has actually got your logo on it. So it's the RCYCL in terms of recycle, and then rewear literally says rewear and repair says repair. So we can't really get this wrong, right? Well, when we're shopping, or whether we are doing a cleanse, or we want to repair some of the things that we've had sitting there for years, which is maybe an investment piece, and we haven't been able to get to the person who can do the alterations or the repair for us. So there's a lot of convenience involved in what you're offering here. And I know we've kind of got two perspectives. We've got to think about the brands and the retailers, which is a huge part of our audience. And then we've got the consumer side, but you're solving problems actually for both. So before we get into more about the brand side and the commercial, I guess, elements of your product, let's talk about the journey of when the product is popped into those satchel bags. Where does it go? Because I'm sure these are the questions that you get when you're on the calls with your brand partners. So let's start with recycle, shall we? So if I now go and do a cleanse and fill up my bag, and these are perhaps products that aren't in a state to be donated, they're really at their end of life, and we want to find an avenue to recycle, what happens when we purchase that satchel bag from you or from the brand partner, and we've filled it up and then it goes on its merry way? Where does that end up?
So that ends up at our sorting facility. So what we're doing now is that we're actually taking back all of the items, because we can look at what's actually coming back. Is it your old Lycra that you've worn to the gym too many times? Is it those cheap t-shirts that have lost shape in the wash? What is it? And so by us taking them back and actually just casting our eye over what is coming back through those bags, we can then responsibly give those garments to the right recycler. So we've got a bank of recyclers on our back end. And so we look if it's polyester, if it's cotton, if it's a blend, and we feed that stock into the recyclers that can actually process it efficiently and properly. So generally speaking, what happens is that our synthetics get made into a carpet underlay or a felt or an acoustic panel or a decorative panel even. So if you're thinking about your next fit out as a retailer or as a brand, it's something that you can actually buy back and
Mm.
feature in your stores, in your offices, whatever it may be. But when we look at all of the natural fibers, what happens to those is that they will ultimately get refiberized, broken down, and respun into new yarn.
Yeah.
So the technology that's happening in Australia is coming along in leaps and bounds. When I first started the business, it was nowhere near what it is as it is today.
Yeah.
It's advanced so, so rapidly. And when we have industry bodies like Seamless who bring everybody together and can highlight and share and collaborate,
Yeah.
that just makes a world of difference. So we just work with all the latest and greatest
Yeah.
technology partners, manufacturing partners. We've got the luxury as a brand to be able to do that. We
Yeah.
don't have to take everything and push it through the same source. We've got the luxury of actually looking and seeing and understanding. And with that data, we can take that back to the brands and we can report on that and we can help those messages be part of their marketing material because the consumers actually want to know that kind of data as well. They want to know what's happening
Mm.
in the back end. And so they
Exactly.
should. It should be absolutely transparent. And, in the end, we're all trying to push the boundaries. We're all trying our hardest to make a difference. And as I said, it's still a journey and
Yeah.
it's still an adventure.
I,
Um,
I love that the integrity is there, Belinda, because I didn't realize that you had a sorting facility. So you overseeing that, and as you said, you're kind of directing where this product goes at end of life so that it is going to the right places. And then, as you said, is all the data and the observations that you're making as this product comes through. So that must have been a huge undertaking.
Yeah,
And
look, yeah, it was. And I think, again, the luxury of not being an actual recycler and being that conduit between the brands and the consumers and the recycling partners
yeah,
is it's such a luxury that I don't have to be completely focused on my recycling capabilities.
yeah,
I can be focused on helping the brand partners achieve their KPIs in their sustainability reporting or in their ESG reporting or whatever it may be.
yeah,
And nothing is cookie cutter right now. We can't just sort of roll out each brand partnership same as the last one. It has to be working alongside the brands and what they want and what they want to achieve and how they give access to a system like this to
mm,
their customers and to their and within their retail channels, whether it be online or whether it be a packaging element or whether it be an in-store activation. There's so many different options.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the beauty of working with someone like yourself. It's a centralized, point of someone with integrity who's able to manage this on behalf of the brands. And I think that that takes a lot of risk out of it for brands as well. And for consumers, of course, where is their product going? They want to be living and breathing their values. So it's very important to know that the end of life of that product is being managed well. Let's talk about rewear. So you mentioned the salvos earlier. So that's your partnership.
That's our partnership at the moment with Rewear. So when I went down the rabbit hole of waste and what that looks like in Australia, of course, it takes you to the charity sector and to understand what happens with their waste streams and what happens with their intake actually. And as we know, to date, or generally speaking, we've cleaned out our wardrobe and we have our hand-me-down pile, which we give to our family and friends, and we have our op shop pile or our salvos pile that we give to the salvos or a charity partner, and then we have our end of life pile. So now that we've got our end of life pile out of the way, our op shop pile is there. We all have it. We all utilize, we all need it. We all
Yeah.
would love to be able to just simply hand over a freight bag and drop it off at our local drop-off location, whether it be the newsagents or the service station, like we would any other return. And a return process is something that is becoming the norm in Australia and worldwide.
Yeah.
So it's about how do we just enable it? How do we just, keep it as fluid as possible? I think the stats are, and the Salvos might need to correct me on this, that, we carry around garbage bags in our boot for 3 to 6 months before we actually donate it, or before we actually go to a store. And for some of us, it could be just down the street, but it's just not, not a destination point unless we're going there to have a look through the racks. And so really, we're just trying to hit a different customer, and just to try to hit an online customer and replicating the same mindset and the same system that they would normally use for their online purchases, and helping our charity partner in the meantime. And what that ultimately means is that their intake of clothing that would come from these bags is assumed that it's a higher value, so that they can then offer it in their stores as a higher priced item. They're the ones who are utilizing this money to help their communities in need. And so really, we're just giving them another a source of input that they can on sell, and they can win from it.
Yeah, amazing. I think I can confirm that stat of the garbage bags in the boot. I might have had some in there last week, but not anymore, because I've just purchased some of your bags. So I'm going to have a big cleanse this weekend. You've inspired me. But that sounds about right. We all do the cleanse, and then it's like, oh, I've got to get to that destination to drop this off, whichever, whatever your choice is. So there's so much convenience with what you're doing. Now, before we dive into brand, I want to talk about repair, because repair is new, and that sounds quite exciting. Tell us about the repair satchels.
Brand new. So we've partnered with an amazing organisation called Hello Taylor. They were just a finalist for the eBay Circular Fashion Fund this year, which is super exciting. And so I suppose when you're thinking about how to offer a sustainability initiative to the entire retail landscape, there is so many tiers and so many factors and so many components. And so when you think about recycle, I suppose you're thinking about that lower end brand tier that, is about a disposable, fashion and disposable clothing as such, but it's just the clothing that's not going to last as long. And so that kind of hits that mark. And then when you think about rewear, it's that middle tier, it's those quality garments that can be loved by somebody else. But then you get that top tier, and they're investment pieces, as you just said earlier, that we love. And really the best sustainable option for our garments is for us to wear them for as long as possible. And although I love the idea of being able to mend and sew it myself, I haven't got that skill set. And so Hello Taylor have teamed up with multiple social enterprise partners that the bag is just simply, it's the same deal. You buy it online, you add your repair and what you would like for it to happen to that garment. You pop it in the bag, you drop it off at your local drop-off location. That bag goes to the social enterprise. They fix it. They let you know. They send you photos. It all gets managed through the app. And then that bag comes straight through to your door again. So you literally don't have to go back and pick it up. It comes straight back to you. And it is a time factor, and it is a luxury. But when we're thinking about the clothes that we need to repair and we sit on them for 6 to 12 months, a 3-week turnaround really looks really good.
It sure does. We know how quick 3 weeks can go. So just to clarify that, so you're purchasing the satchel bag that says repair on it. You're popping in whatever it is you need to be have repaired. It goes off to one of the Hello Taylor partners, and then you get a quote, through the app in regards to how much it's actually going to cost, whether that's a tear in a garment or a hem that needs fixed or whatever it might be.
Yeah, so it's all done at point of purchase.
Yeah.
With repairs, obviously, it's personalised. So we can't send you a generic price point for whatever it may be. So the bag actually only covers the freight. So the freight that goes to the repair partner and the freight that comes back to you.
Yeah.
And then Hello Taylor, the app actually takes into consideration all the various repairs that are on offer. So
Okay.
hems, buttons, zips, whatever it may be.
Yep.
And at point of purchase, you add in all of those details. And then at checkout, it's the same deal. Checkout, you check out, the bag is sent to you like any other online order, because you need that bag to be able to put it into. That bag is already activated based on your location. It's activated to the right repair partner who has got the skill set or the strength for that particular repair. They do their thing, they work their magic, and then it comes straight back to you at your door when it's ready.
I love it. Now, is this available Australia-wide, or is it only in certain locations at the moment?
We're piloting it in Sydney and Melbourne at
Yeah.
the moment.
Yeah.
But once we get through this pilot phase, we can absolutely offer it Australia-wide.
Love it. I love it. That's amazing. Just it's so convenient and just a solution. We've all got things that have been sitting there, and I know I look at things in my wardrobe, I'm like, got to get that to the alteration person, but it's always a gotta get, and doesn't really happen, or it could be 12 months down the track. So here's a solution for everyone. So can we just mention price points of all of those satchels across the 3 pillars, just to give our audience a bit of perspective in terms of kind of how efficient this is in terms of, what they achieve on the other end?
So recycle come in a few different sizes, the bags.
Yeah.
And again, it's just about understanding what happens with your wardrobe clean out. So we've got a smaller satchel that will take up to 4 garments. And that's just for the quick clean out. You know, you've got your 3 work shirts, whatever it may be, throw it in a really small satchel and get rid of it. It's about making it habitual. It's about using it often, getting it out of your space. If you've got sort of an end of season clean out, or if the kids have got a wardrobe, a season change, or it's the end of the season for their footy or for their cricket or for their uniforms, throw it in a large bag. That will take about 15 to 20 garments. Now, it does depend on the garment size. We say everyday garments. So they're your t-shirts, your shorts, your pajamas, those kind of garments. If you do have a bigger jacket or a pair of pants that's drill or heavier in fabric, or a pair of jeans, then it will differ. But generally speaking, so the smaller one is $12.95. We have got a medium one, which will take about 6 garments at $19.95. And then our big one is $29.95. So those prices just cover the cost of freight and the cost of processing with our recycling partners.
Yeah. Amazing. So very accessible in terms of price point there, based on all of the value of that solution that you've just shared with everyone. So
yeah,
amazing. So congrats to that point, to getting it to that point.
I have to take into consideration, as a retailer, you don't want it to be laughed out of your checkout.
Of course.
You have to, it has to be priced reasonably enough so that the consumer actually uptakes it and partakes in the program.
Yeah. And I think, of course, we're going to talk about the education side in regards to the consumers or customers in a moment. But I think that that's just a big part of it, because as soon as you truly understand the value here and the convenience and the solution at end of life, it's pretty much a no-brainer. So let's talk about brand partnerships. I know that you've positioned RCYCL as a partner to brands. You want to be working with them in synergy and meeting them where they're at. Let's share with our audience the type of brands that you're working with right now and what's motivated them. I think it's pretty clear already what's motivated them to take part. But let's talk about where they're at, because there's some pretty big names there.
Yeah, look, I've been really lucky, and I think it also comes back down to the trust factor. You know, if I'm putting a product out to market, I have to make sure that the consumer trusts my brand. And so working alongside organizations like The Iconic, eBay, we actually launched the business through my flagship stores a couple of years ago. It was just, for me, it was just making sure that I'm surrounded with trusted brands.
Yeah.
Being part of the Australian Fashion Council and, of course, being a supporting member of Seamless is also high on the list of important organisations surrounding me.
Amazing. And what about, growing brands or emerging brands, independent brands? What has the response been from the broader market so far?
And I think when I talk about emerging brands and smaller brands, this is where it really comes into play, because unlike the big retailers, emerging and small brands don't have the budget to offer a sustainability initiative. And so really that's why we've pivoted. And again, the luxury of being in that middle is that we can be really agile with how we move with the market and how we change course at any sort of given time. So now we're on offer at Add to Cart for all brands. So it's just a simple plug-in. So regardless of whether you are a big brand or a small brand, you can still offer your customers a sustainable option. You still make margin on the product that's sold. It's drop shipped via our warehouse. It's so easy. And that's really what I'm hoping to achieve with all of this. It's just that we're seeing sustainability for all of the pain points that it is, like whether it be infrastructure, or whether it be the overheads, or whether it just be too hard. And so really what I'm trying to bring to the market is to say, well, it doesn't have to be hard. Like, it's just about starting. And so whether you're a small brand, put it at Add to Cart. Let the customers decide. If they add it to cart, amazing. If they don't, they're exposed to an option. And that comes back to the education piece as well. How do we show our customers that we're doing something? How do we educate that there are options out there? Again, like, this is not a perfect scenario, but it's about doing something. And it's about empowering all consumers that they can do something, rather than just be completely overwhelmed and daunted by the whole environmental landscape in which we live right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You've touched on so many important points, and I know that everyone tuning in is committed to elevating their impact or sustainability strategy. We know that it's a long-term journey and we have to build as we go, especially if it's a smaller or emerging brand. As you said, there's not big budgets to implement, amazing big initiatives. This one is very seamless, plug and play. So let's break that down, Belinda. So if someone listening right now says, this is amazing, I want to add this to my online experience now, how do they get started? Do they simply go to your website, fill out an inquiry form, or is it all automated? How does it work?
Yeah, so right now, go to the website, go to the Contact Us page, send us an email, and we'll make it happen from there. It honestly takes 5 minutes. It's super easy. The whole system's set up already. And I think, again, like, I've worked really, really hard on making sure that the process is seamless. And so now we're at a point where we can expand in a fashion that is an add to cart option or an e-com option, so that we can broaden the distribution and just make sure that everyone can have access to it.
Yeah. So let's just make it clear for everyone. This is just like buying a product or ranging a product, just like any other in your range or collection. So this is going to become an SKU in your range plan, and basically there is a margin involved. So there is some money to be made here. So rather than typically a cost invested in an initiative like this, there is some margin there. Are there any barriers that you've kind of faced? So are there minimum order quantities with the satchels? Like, how does a brand, like, is it a big investment to get started? Because obviously they'll be buying at a certain price, they'll be selling it at a margin, but they're going to have to invest to get started.
Well, it depends. It depends on the size. And I think that's where, again, we're lucky enough to be agile. We can work with all the brands, dependent on size. It doesn't really matter. It depends on, what their volume capacity is and what that looks like. It depends on how we're going to be backed with a marketing campaign or an EDM campaign, or whether we sort of, so I think it all really is just a true partnership. We can't go into anything like this and have, expectations that the brand is going to, do everything for us. I think it is about working, listening, understanding what they want to achieve from it. And, but then also we've got as I said, we've got the ability to be agile. So if it's not an add to cart, is it a product? Is it a packaging solution? There are so many areas in which we can kind of move in at the moment. And that that in itself, I feel is so exciting, as a product person, to be able to say, well, it's not necessarily a physical product at your counter. It's evolved from that. So it could be many things in your business. So it's just about having a conversation and understanding where and how it can fit in so that you can be championed. The brands can be championed by that.
Yeah, love it. Well, let's unpack some of that so that we can kind of put that in context for everyone. Because I think what you're mentioning there is it can be purchased, basically add to cart by a customer on a brand's website. But then there's other things you can do, like include it as part of your loyalty program, or it might be a promotion where you're giving that away on Earth Day to your customers or something like that. So there's a whole heap of ways to kind of incorporate it into your business and into your storytelling around conscious fashion. Maybe we can chat a little bit about what the Iconic are doing, because I had the pleasure of having Rebecca, the head of sustainability from the Iconic, on the pod recently, where we chatted about recycle. Perhaps you could share with our audience, though, what the Iconic have been doing and how they've been, I guess, sharing that with their customers, educating and so forth. That might just kind of set the scene for everyone in terms of, what the biggest online retailer in Australia is doing with your product right now.
And we haven't even hit our strides yet. We've got
Yeah.
so much more that's on the game plan that we haven't even ticked off yet. So that's, super exciting in itself.
Yeah.
So we've done brand activations with the Iconic. So again, I think one of my superpowers as a brand is that it's a tangible product. People can touch and feel it. And when people are touching and feeling it, they actually understand the process. Oh, it's as simple as filling this freight bag up and dropping it off. I think that is in itself just a really good point. So we've done activations with the Iconic. We've done social campaigns with the Iconic. We work with their influencers just to show people how easy it is. We've got grand plans about using it across their platform, about where it fits in their platform and where it really resonates with the customer. The Iconic have put together Rethink, and if you go onto that page on their website, it describes and explains how recycle is being used, how rewear is being used, and what the mission is for the brand, and how much, we're looking to change industry, to change consumer mindset, to change and to educate people to say, well, it's an option there. Why don't we add it to cart? So
As you're speaking, I'm thinking it's like a content creator's goldmine. Like I'm just thinking about all the different content you could create around this. Just from, again, just the instructional videos of how to pack and sorting through, cleansing your wardrobe and what happens on the other end, and of course some of the amazing, sustainability stats around it. Like there's so much content. You could make it really fun as well.
yeah,
So
and we haven't even tapped into that space yet. Our socials are organic at the moment, and we've not even tapped into any of that space. So it's look, it's an amazing place to be.
Yeah.
It's an amazing and very exciting place to be, working alongside, as you said, the biggest brands, but working alongside, the consumers and seeing how they're changing and how they're adopting it, and how people are curious about actually doing something. They just don't know how to act, or they don't know how to do it, or they don't know what to do next. Yeah, it's a journey, but working with brands like the Iconic and eBay has allowed us to just really put it out there en masse and get a really good read.
Yeah, I love it. There's just, there's so many I think inspiring ways that you could kind of embrace this. I'm thinking what's coming to my mind's racing. I'm thinking about, all of my clients, and on the daily we're talking about content, and founder content for founder-led brands is huge. So what's going through my mind right now is, say I'm the founder of a business, which I am, and I want to be, a thought leader and advocate in my space. So I could be showing my customers what I'm doing with all of the recycle options. It could be, okay, what am I doing with my own wardrobe around recycle, around rewear, and around repair? So you could really use that in the thought leader space to inspire others, to inspire your community to get involved in this amazing system that's readily available. So yeah, I think that there's there's probably a lot of promotional opportunities, a lot of content opportunities, as well as, like you said, the add to cart. And I think education is key, because even just listening to you today share what you've been sharing so far, there's so many things that I thought I knew it all about your business, but I definitely didn't. I'm definitely learning more. And I think that's like anything, that repetition is key. You've got to really hear about something several times before you really kind of get the concept. So in saying that, is there anything else that you feel like brands that are tuning in need to know about RCYCL?
Well, I think I just want to say it's a unique concept, and don't be scared of it. It's not a scary system. It's a pretty safe system for you to interact with your customers, for you to interact. And as you said earlier, you know, whether it be a loyalty program, whether it be samples, whether it be an activation, you know, I think, again, the luxury of not focusing on manufacturing and recycling and having the ability to be the conduit, the middle person, the middleman in between all the brands and the consumers and the recycling partners, is that we can get creative, we can push some boundaries, we can sort of work and bring all of this thinking to the forefront of the consumer. You know, how do we make it fun? How do we make it creative? How do we, you know, just make it habitual? And so when you were talking earlier about what I do, so every couple of weeks, when I'm doing the laundry at home, I have a really big, large recycle bag, and I have a really big rewear bag. And as I'm just going through my stuff, like bang, in each bag, whatever it correlates to, seal it up, and I just drop it off. And I think because I've made it habitual, because it's just part of my system now, that every couple of weeks I'm cleansing. I'm not feeling overwhelmed by what we have to manage in our daily lives.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really key. It's just start, let's have some fun, you know, bring it to the customer. And in the end, we're all going to win. So whether you divert 1 kilo from landfill or, you know, 500,000 kilos, it's just, you know, we all have to win. The consumers win because they feel empowered. The brands win because they're actually making a small margin and they don't have any overheads. So let's just push some boundaries and have some fun.
I love it. It sounds fun. It sounds challenging. I almost think about that community challenge as well, you know, for brands to kind of set a challenge for their community, like who can kind of recycle or, you know, donate through rewear the most amount of product. I'm trying to think of a reason, Belinda, that brands or any brand out there would say no to this. I can't think of one. I'm sure you've heard one or two, but I can't think of anything that's coming to mind at the moment, because it seems like a no-brainer. I know the only thing I'm thinking of is, you know, that very minimal investment initially to have those satchels in stock to get started. So maybe for some of the smaller brands, there might be some budget considerations, but I can't think of anything else that's coming to mind that would be a barrier to a brand moving forward with something like this, apart from not knowing about it.
Well, not knowing about it. And I think also it's a unique concept, Elizabeth. You know, what I'm doing is I'm actually selling in a unique product and a unique concept. And that's hard in itself because we're pushing the norm. We're changing the norm of retail. However, I'm trying to bring it back to a language that retailers can understand and consumers can understand.
Yeah.
Retail product, it's got a SKU. You put it in your product offering like any other product. That makes sense to retailers. It's about the customer uptaking it and they purchase it like any other product. That makes sense to consumers. What I have found to be the hardest part is just everyone loves the idea. I have to say, I don't have a lot of negative conversations. It's just the time it takes to say yes. It's the time it takes to put it into your system, to set up a vendor form. And again, it's not hard. Once it's all done, it's just a set and forget.
Yeah.
But it is a unique concept and brands are scared by that. When I think you kind of don't need to be, because as a retailer, I've put in all the due diligence behind the scenes to make sure that if I was a product buyer, or if I was, a brand manager, that all the questions that I would ask, I hopefully have the answers for those upon our initial conversation. So
Yeah.
I think the pain points it's just that everyone's seeing what everyone else is doing in the industry and they don't want to be the first movers. I have been lucky, as I said, to have some of the biggest brands as my first movers. And
Yeah.
it just goes to show that they are at the forefront of trend forecasting. They are at the forefront of pushing those boundaries and offering something unique to their customer, which
Yeah.
should absolutely be celebrated.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I know you're saying the challenge is around the uniqueness. I almost see that that's the USP, that this is unique, that it's something different. And I think, we're fortunate for a business like yours that we are living in a time where there's a lot of newness and uniqueness going on around us, from whether that is in the sustainability space or whether it's AI and technology coming at us at light speed. We're having to be pretty quick on our feet. So I think uniqueness, in my opinion, is good because it's offering a new solution to a very clear problem. And I think once it's broken down and it's palatable to understand, then I think you're almost 90% there in terms of getting it over the line. I think that whole education piece, as you said, with anything new, it's education and it's telling your story and be able to tell that story in a way, like in some long form content like this, where brands and retailers have the opportunity to really understand what it could bring into their world and their customers' world.
Yeah.
You've
And thank
mentioned
you for that.
That's okay. You've mentioned a few stats. Is there anything that you'd like to cover? I know that we hear a lot of stats being thrown around in our industry, but we know that the statistics around fashion waste are pretty staggering. Is there anything you'd like to share with our audience around, the figures that you've come across and, what your business is doing to help to put a dent in that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest stats that's going around at the moment is that Australia's consumption rate is one of the highest in the world per capita. And that is really, as you said, mind blowing. And I think also because we've got so much land here, if you think about what Europe are doing and the little land that they have, it's regulation that they have to look after their waste. Here, it's not so much the case. And so it's almost like, how do we bring that into the forefront of our mind? But, I think that is a staggering stat. I think really it's about the education.
Yeah.
It's about really just saying to everybody that not to feel overwhelmed by it and not to sit dormant on this, that we have got the opportunity to do something and be part of a journey. I think with all of these kind of sustainability initiatives, it's about being on the journey with brands and that the transparency is clear to say that it's a journey. It's going to constantly be evolving. So just stay with us and let's just do something. In Australia, we throw to landfill in addition of 220,000 tonnes every year. And, that's uniform waste, that's fast fashion, that's a lot with tags.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like, well, how do we look at that? Or how do we educate about that? How do we inform about that? And how do we bring it back to, as you said, digestible chunks that we can offer to, first of all, brands, but then, to consumers so that we can all play a part. It's a constantly evolving landscape, but I think it's good. Everyone's moving in the right direction, the sustainability space, and that's a huge word that retailers are just so overwhelmed themselves as to what to do in the sustainability space. But any initiative is amazing. Any initiative or any project or any action that any brand or any consumer is doing is good.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a competitive space. We should all be working together. And if we do, we can actually make the impact that we need. Australia's small in comparison to overseas markets, so we should use that to our advantage.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's those small steps that do contribute to that huge impact at the end of the day. And we've all got to start somewhere. So I feel like this is a great starting point for many of the smaller brands out there for sure, and an opportunity for the bigger brands to, take their offer to the next level. I would love to focus now on What are some of the routines and practices and support systems that you have in place to be able to do what you do, Belinda? Because you are breaking new ground here. As you said, you've got a unique business model. You have to have the energy, the tenacity to kind of be on the front line and, have those conversations and break down those barriers. How are you doing it? And what have you got to share with our audience? Perhaps, things that are working for you and things that you still need to, fine tune.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is that my family unit is my biggest support crew. I have got children. They see what happens in our worlds every day. They see our wins, they see our losses, they see our disappointments, and that's life. But what I really want them to see is that starting a business is hard. Starting a unique concept is hard. All of the no's that come your way is just, it feels like sometimes that, it just, okay, it's not worth it. But if I can show the kids grit and determination and to keep moving, I think that's a life skill that as a parent, I would be very proud to pass on. There's been many tears. There's been many walks around the block with the dog. There's been many moments of just a breath to say, okay, this is okay. Let's move on. And I think really just if I have to stay clear to my vision. I have to stay clear to my end mission. In the end, I want my kids to have an environment in which they can go to the beach and they can enjoy nature just like we have. And when we were caught in the bushfires, and then we went into COVID and we were walking along the beach and ash was just coming up through the waves. I was just like, this is just madness. Like, how do I, as an individual, enable as many people as possible to do the right thing? And so when we first started the business, every time we had the little Shopify ka-ching happen on the phone, and it didn't come in thick and fast, but we would all jump up and cheer and celebrate and go, well, that's one bag that is diverted. And so that's one bag of clothing, which is a starting point to our bigger mission so that we can do something to help the environment, whatever that may be. And I suppose it doesn't necessarily have to be, well, it does have to be the diversion from landfill, but it's about the consumer change, mindset change. It's about how do we, educate and work with, the everyday person. How do we work alongside brands to offer something so completely new, but yet so simple? So it's all of the wins to celebrate, but it's all the losses to be acknowledged and just to constantly pivot and move. And so my support crew is strong. They have had lots of phone calls of joy and lots of phone calls of going, oh, can you believe this happened to me today? But that's business and that's life.
Yeah.
And
it's the rite of passage as a business owner, isn't it? The ups and downs and the tears that just flow at times. And, the hope is that we all come out the other side and it's a good news story. But you're definitely on that path of purpose. You've obviously had a life-changing moment in time with yourself and your family through the bushfires, and you've come out that other end and you're putting some good out into the world, Belinda. So that has to be admired and congratulated. So I'd love to know, what does the next 12 months for RCYCL look like? If you could wave your magic wand and get your wish, what would your business look like in 12 months' time?
Yeah, I love this question because it would just be accessible.
Yeah.
You would be able to think about recycling, you'd be able to think about donating your clothes, and it will be as intuitive as buying new clothes. That's what my wish will be. It will be accessible, easy, intuitive.
Love it. I feel like that's going to be achieved. I can see that big green tick coming up on the horizon for you. Now, just the big question to leave our audience with, Belinda, what is your ideal future vision for the fashion industry? Again, if you could wave that magic wand, what would you like the fashion industry to look like years down the track, let's say?
Yeah, it's that's a really interesting question. It's a huge question. And I have to say, when I started the business as a product person, I didn't think that I would be talking to the biggest retailers, but also speaking to industry bodies and government. It's just a huge, huge landscape. My wish for it would be is just for it to be accepted in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Just to have that open mindset, just to have the ability to try new things. As I said, whatever it may be, it's good. It's just being open and being honest and being transparent with your customer base. Like, everyone wants to be on the journey. And I
Yeah.
think that's when people really lean in to a business, is that if you take them on the journey and say this is real and this is what it's like, then what have we got to lose?
Yeah, I love that. And who's on the journey with you? Who's on the team? There's obviously so much that you've achieved since you launched several years ago. What does the team look like? We didn't touch on that earlier. We must mention who's on the team.
Yeah, it's constantly expanding.
Yep.
But then, as with any startup, it expands and retracts. It
Yep.
expands and it retracts. So if we've got a new campaign coming on, on board, then, I invest in all of my go-to people, to marketing, to branding, to strategy, to operations and logistics.
Yep.
I have to say that a lot of people I work with and who are on my team are ex-industry. They've come to me and said, "Hey, B, I love what you do so much. How can I help?" And that is so validating in itself, to be able to have access to the highest caliber of people and have them support me as a business, and for me to have access to their skill set is so, so humbling. So, it goes wide and then it comes in, but it's constantly changing and it's constantly moving and it's
Yeah.
constantly growing, which is great.
Yeah. And I think that's the best business model to have, to be able to expand and contract depending on what's on the radar, what's in front of you. And also being in a business that's a little bit hard to anticipate what, the next month or the next 3 months or 6 months or so are going to look like.
Yeah.
Well, Belinda, congratulations to you and to your team on everything that you have achieved to date. We've been following your journey and absolutely been inspired. So I can't wait to share this with our audience. Where can those tuning in connect with you?
Yep. Jump on the website, put in a contact form that will come to me, and we can have a chat. Let's work out a time to meet and just talk about what your needs are, and let's just make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's make it happen, everyone. We'll put all of the details in the show notes so you can start to stalk Belinda and get it done. Thanks, Belinda. Thank you for joining me. Absolutely love that. And again, congratulations on everything that you've achieved so far.
Thanks for the opportunity to share my story, Elizabeth.
You're welcome.
Thank you for tuning in to Fashion Business Mindset. We'd love to stay connected. Fashion Equipped is a leading Melbourne-based consultancy, partnering with fashion and lifestyle brands, retailers, wholesalers, and industry leaders globally. We specialise in strategic advisory, growth planning, and brand elevation, empowering fashion businesses to scale with confidence and impact. I invite you to head to fashionequipped.com.au to join our mailing list and receive the monthly edit, your go-to source for industry insights, business optimization strategies, and free trend reports. While you're there, explore our consulting services, our online learning and mentoring programs. We'd also love to connect on Instagram. You can follow us at Fashion Equipped and at Fashion Business Mindset for more industry insights and inspiration. We're here to help you navigate the business of fashion and take your brand to the next level.
This is a Guide Your Light Network production, creating podcasts with purpose.